Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Ninth Grade Experience podcast. I'm your host, Chris Dutchko. Today, we are closing out Teacher Appreciation Week here across the country and here at Emmaus High School. And we figured for this week, we wanted to hear from some of our great teachers here at Emmaus High School. So we opened up the possibility for people to come on and record with us and answer a couple questions. They're not full-length interviews this week, but just answering a couple questions. So all the teachers that you're going to hear coming up answered 3 questions. The first question is if they had an experience in their 9th grade year that led them to become a teacher or shaped their potential career path. The second question is, what do they love about teaching? And I phrased it to them as in a pre-COVID world, but maybe people are loving the way that they're teaching this year. And then the last question that we asked them was if they had any advice for current 9th graders going forward or upcoming 9th graders who will be entering the high school next year. So take a couple minutes here and listen to some of the teachers here at Emmaus High School while also extending some appreciation to them and to all of our hardworking staff and here at the high school for doing a tremendous job this year in 2020, 2021. And hopefully better days are ahead of us coming up as soon as possible here. So enjoy this episode. And if you have any potential episode ideas, feel free to reach out. You can go to ninthgradeexperience.com to get all the latest information, all the newest episodes, and be able to listen and write an email back to us or give us show suggestions as well too. So as we come up to the end of the school year, we're hoping to hear from all of you to kind of see what we can focus on as we close it out and move into next school year. So thanks a lot, everybody, and enjoy today's show. So we're here with Mrs. Horner, one of our teachers here in the building who wanted to come on for our Teacher Appreciation Week episode here. So I'm going to give her a chance to introduce herself to all of you if you don't know who she is, and then we'll ask her a couple questions here that we're asking all of our teachers that come on this week to chime in. So Mrs. Horner, why don't you let everyone know a little bit about yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Allison Horner. I am an Emmaus graduate. I graduated here in 96, and I have been teaching here for about 14 years. I do have a daughter who will be a 9th grader here next year, so I don't know if she'll be listening to some of these podcasts to get ready for her 9th grade year. But yeah, I teach learning sport, and my room is 315, which is right by the main office, so I'm kind of right in the middle of the school.
So you get a chance to see everybody that comes through, and hopefully your daughter isn't too embarrassed to have you here at the high school, but we have a lot of teachers that have kids that have come through the high school. So you're just the next in the long line. My son will be up shortly too, so we'll have that in common in a few years here. So we're asking our teachers 3 questions this week for the show, just to kind of touch base for this Teacher Appreciation Week. So the first question we're asking anyone that comes on is, was there an experience in your 9th grade year or in high school in general that led you to want to be a teacher?
Well, when I was in 9th grade at East Penn, 9th grade was actually at Iyer. So I don't know if people remember that there was the middle of school where the principal's office wasn't here, and there was Emmaus Junior High was closer to Pine Street, and everything else was the high school. And the 9th graders were actually either at Emmaus Junior High or at Iyer. So I was over at Iyer, and that year, my mom actually was a long-term sub for a reading teacher at Iyer. So I was, going to school every day with my mom in the car, going to my classes, and I loved the fact that she was there. Actually, most kids might not like that, but I didn't really see her too much. But if I needed something, she was there. If I forgot my lunch money, this is before you had a card, I could go over and have her help me. If I was late to class, I could go ask her for a pass. So it was really convenient to have her there. And I think I saw that as a good lifestyle. So, having your parents close by, even though maybe you don't want them always close by, but sometimes a little bit when you need them, it is nice. So I think that kind of made me want to consider being a teacher. And just that I saw what she did, and it looked like fun and looked like something I could see myself doing.
And then here you are many years later in the building teaching. So, those ninth grade years, we talk about this all the time, but, those experiences in ninth grade, and that's kind of a unique one. So you're going to get to relive that next year with your own daughter here. Hopefully she won't be trying to bum lunch money off of you or whatever, but it's a unique experience. So in a normal world, which we're obviously not back in yet, but on the way, what are your favorite things about teaching? What do you really enjoy about your job?
I love the kids. I know that's why, if you're a teacher, that's why you do it, I think, or you're miserable. Because otherwise, if you don't love the kids, you're not going to be happy. I love working with the high school kids. They're so much fun. They're becoming adults. So they're going through so many different learning experiences. You can have great conversations. They're independent. Elementary kids, teachers who are teaching elementary kids, I don't know how they do it because they're not independent and they need everything. But high schoolers are independent. They're ready for the next step in their life, and you can see them progressing to that point. And I think that's a really exciting time. So I really just love, as a special education teacher, as a special education teacher, I have a ton of paperwork. So that's definitely not my favorite part. So having those kids to work with is what keeps pulling me back. Every time I think I don't want to do this anymore because of the paperwork. And then the next day I have a great conversation with one of my students, and that reminds me, that's why I'm here every day.
And the students that you primarily work with are working on those life skill transitions and, learning those skills. So, you talk about that and you're basically living that every day with them. They're doing their academics, but you're also preparing them for job skills, interviewing skills, all those really cool things that students maybe not at every level get, but your students are particularly getting those instruction in those skills, which I think, you've been doing it for as long as I've been here. So I think it's kind of your little niche that you have here at the school. So I think you've had enough time to kind of develop that and develop cool programs. And, we've done a lot of work with interviewing students. So I think it's really a neat thing that you're doing here. And our last question. So I guess you can address this to your own daughter if you'd like, but you can address it to our ninth graders coming up or current ninth graders is what would you say, or what advice would you give to students that are going to be either entering ninth grade next year or current ninth graders at the end of this 2021 school year here?
I think over the years, the one thing I've really seen, because I do work with a lot of 9th and 10th graders mostly, it's a tough year. It's a tough transition because you're, the young guy in the big school, and a lot of kids try to be cool or, get noticed at the high school. And I noticed that when they do that, it really makes it a rough experience. They end up getting in trouble. They end up maybe not doing well in school with their grades. They're always fighting to come back. They're fighting to get their grades back up. They're fighting to, not be getting in trouble. So I think my advice would be just be yourself. Don't try to be the big man on campus. This school's too big. You don't want to be the big man because it's just going to take you down the wrong path. Just be yourself, get good friends, do your work, and jump through the hoops that you need to jump through to get through high school, and you'll do great.
So great advice there from Mrs. Horner. So if you see her in the building in that area around 315 right near the main office, you can say hi, or if you see her on the field hockey field, she left out the part that she was an outstanding field hockey player during her time here at Emmaus High School, but maybe that would be another conversation for another day there. But again, thank you to Mrs. Horner for taking some time out, and we appreciate all the work that you do here at Emmaus High School. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Sechkow.
So our next guest here on the Ninth Grade Experience podcast is, I can't believe, looking back, that we have not had him on. We're up to almost 70 episodes of the show. We share a room together, and somehow Mr. Remaly has ducked coming onto the show for this long, but I finally got him for Teacher Appreciation Week here. So I want to give a big thanks to Mr. Remaly for joining us right here. So Mr. Remaly, before we get into our couple questions here for this episode, why don't you let everybody know what you do here at Emmaus High School? You're all over the place, but maybe sometimes people don't know exactly what you do. Maybe you don't want to let them know what you do, but what's your role here at Emmaus High School and some of the things that you've been involved with?
Well, thank you, Mr. Stuchko, for that glowing endorsement there and in an introduction. Basically, I'm a learning support teacher. This is my 13th year here at Emmaus High School in the East Penn School District. And I get the opportunity to help out in a whole bunch of different classes. Most recently, I've been helping out predominantly in the Algebra 1 classrooms and also with the Jasper program. It's very exciting. I get a chance to help students that have IEPs, but also in the co-taught classroom, I get to help students in the regular ed situation as well. So it's a really neat experience for me, and I'm very honored to help every student I come across.
And also you have at times been an assistant swim coach and helping out with the swim program as well too. So you have a lot of background with some of our athletes, maybe graduating athletes that you've been helping out as well too. So they might recognize you from the pool as well. So we have 3 questions we're asking on this mini episode. I said to myself, I got to get Mr. Remaly back for a full episode, and maybe in the future we'll do that as well. But for now, we only have him for these couple questions. So our first question we've been asking teachers is, was there something that happened in your 9th grade experience that led you to want to become a teacher? And maybe it wasn't like that was the day that you decided I want to be a teacher, but was there something that maybe you remember from that 9th grade year that maybe led you in the direction of maybe wanting to pursue what you're doing right now?
Well, that's a great question. When I was in 9th grade, my 9th grade experience was a little different than it is here in the East Penn School District. I was actually in the last year of the junior high school at in the Northampton School District. And though I was involved in the band, marching band there, I was involved in swimming for the first year in my 9th grade year. I noticed that during my 9th grade year, I started to really look at and reflect on the teachers that I had in a different light. And I really was able to find out which teachers were there for the students and which teachers were there for themselves. And it really was striking to me. And I really gravitated towards those teachers that were there for the students because they really made the experience more fun, more enjoyable. And, quite frankly, I learned much more from those specific teachers. And I held on to that, even though I didn't really go into teaching until I was in grad school after graduating with my undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering. So that kind of resonated with me right around 9th grade when I really started to observe more of how my teachers were. So that's what really stood out to me during my 9th grade year.
And it's interesting that you bring that up, because one of the things that, if you know Mr. Remaly or have ever had interactions with him, it's that he's very student-centered, student first, which is kind of, you hear the beginnings of that. We always wonder, like, when do people kind of develop that? So you hear that it's part of his 9th grade story, like kind of getting to know the teachers, know what was happening. And kind of, you can see then, like, again, we always talk about that 9th grade year, there's always something that seems to kind of stick out or show that people remember. So like you said, it was a little bit more later on in your career, which we can get into on the full length Mr. Remaly episode in the future. But I think for now, it's like one of those things where you never know what that during that 9th grade year and how it's going to lead you. So our second question we've been asking to people, and it's hard, we're at the end of the school year here, we're kind of getting to the end and everyone wants to be done. But looking back or thinking about it, what is it that you love about teaching? It can be in a pre-COVID world. It could be in the world we currently inhabit and we are doing every day here. But what is it about this profession that makes you love what you're doing?
Well, first of all, I really, truly love working with people, just in general. I love trying to encourage people, to help them see a different perspective of themselves. Sometimes we need a little nudge to get going in the right direction. And, once students get a chance to see the really, truly positive things that they bring to the classroom, that they bring to our world, and when we really focus on those particular things, and I really try my best to focus on the positives, and that way we can then support the negatives or support the challenges that might be holding us back. That's really important to me. And that's what I really, really love. And, it's so neat to watch the students succeed, in many different ways, maybe ways that they didn't expect that they would. And sometimes it takes a little longer for students to experience success than others. But still, all it takes is that one word or that one phrase or the one discussion, or maybe that one act that people are watching, and students are always watching, because let's face it here, though there are maybe about 200 teachers here in this building, there's 3,000 teachers ultimately that are walking through the halls here. Every student is a teacher, and we all learn from each other. And I just want to make sure that I'm the best iteration of myself at any given time, because you just never know when you might have to say that one important thing that could make the ultimate difference in somebody's life. And I appreciate that responsibility, and it's an honor to help out in any way I can.
And it's funny, like when we're in the room together in the morning, if we happen to be here at the same time, usually one of us will always talk about fighting the good fight, going off and doing the things that we know that are best for students. Mr. Remaly is a huge Notre Dame fan. Above our door, we have a sign, the Play Like a Champion sign. So maybe it's not necessarily like the teacher part, but like, we're not going to go out and start tackling people in the hallway, like playing football. But, we kind of always have that reminder on our way out the door. So last question here for Mr. Remaly, as we kind of tie up this little mini episode here, is, he works with ninth graders. He works in the Jasper program. We've been part of the ninth grade program for several years here. So I'm sure he has lots of great advice here. But for our current ninth graders or upcoming ninth graders, what is one piece of advice from the teacher perspective that you can give to students that are going to be entering or are currently in ninth grade?
Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to give two pieces of advice because I think they're both equally important, and I can't figure which one is better than the other. The first one is make sure you're choosing your friends wisely. As you get older, you're held more accountable to your behavior. And sometimes when you are surrounded with individuals that might have a propensity to make bad choices, you kind of get drawn into that. And at this point, let's face it, you're coming into a new building. It's a new opportunity to be a better version of yourself. And you all know who those people are that you're kind of like, I don't know. Well, here's a great opportunity to kind of like start fresh, start new, make good choices, be around the right people, and you will find yourself just blossoming as a result of that. The second thing I would say is make sure you're asking for help when you need it. Some people are too afraid or too proud to ask for help. And those are like chains that are holding you back. And we want you to be, we want you to break away from those chains and allow us to support you when you need it. You might get a perspective that you didn't consider before. And it might help you also realize that, when you look in the grand scheme of things, we all need help. We all need help every single day. And it is okay to ask for help. And we're here for you. There's a ton of teachers here that are just dying to be able to help other people and to support you. So please realize that when you come to the high school, it's not going to be like some kind of military situation or tough. Like we're cold-hearted here. It's all about supporting each other and making us, like I said before, better iterations of ourselves, so that you can reach those goals that you want to ultimately reach. So very much looking forward to the next group that's going to be coming here to the high school. And please don't hesitate to reach out, even if you don't see me in my classrooms or see you in your classrooms. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you need any help and you'd like to talk about anything school or life related. I'd be happy to help.
And you can hear from his final answer there why we need a full Mr. Remaly episode at one point. There's a lot more to the Mr. Remaly story there. And what he says is true. He's always meeting with students, always conferencing with students, trying to help them figure lots of things out, all different grade levels. So if you're lucky enough to run into Mr. Remaly or have him be part of your time here at Emmaus High School, you should consider yourself a lucky person. And we just want to offer him a sincere thanks and appreciation on this Teacher Appreciation Week here. So if you want to hear more from Mr. Remaly, let us know. And then that way he'll have to come back on later at a different time and we'll get him there. So Mr. Remaly, thanks a lot for joining us on this episode of the Ninth Grade Experience.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stuchko. Let's go. Let's have some fun. Let's go, ninth grade. Let's get it real.
All right, so we're here with another teacher that has volunteered to come on to the podcast today. Another person that I share a room with. This person is outside of the room right now, so we're able to do it a little bit differently. But we're here with Mr. Iobst, who has been here at Emmaus High School for quite some time, even before he was a teacher here. So I'm going to let Mr. Iobst do a quick introduction of himself before we jump into our questions. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Iobst, and your time here at Emmaus High School.
All right. Well, again, I'm Dave Iobst, and I have been here at Emmaus High School. This is my 17th year. Prior to that, I worked 13 years at a place called Kids Peace, which some of you guys may have heard of, a treatment facility for youth. So basically, I've been working with teenagers for a good 30 years now, and I do enjoy that for sure. Mr. Stuchko referred to the fact that I was here a little bit before that also. So in my graduating class of Emmaus High School, 1984. Some of you guys may know that as a Van Halen song or maybe a George Orwell book, but maybe not. So anyway, yes, I graduated from 1984, and I guess I should be proud to say that I was class president that year. I'm not sure how, but it did work out. It definitely was not based on academics.
So there you go. So maybe you've seen Mr. Iobst around the hallway. You didn't know, but you didn't know that you were literally walking around with a past president of Emmaus High School. So I guess if you have access to the school yearbook, you could go back in the 1984 edition and see Mr. Iobst in his role as student body president there. So we're actually going to go back here and we're going to think, I talked to Mr. Iobst yesterday about these questions. So we had to go in the Wayback Machine to his ninth grade year and just think, was there any things that during his ninth grade year that kind of influenced, or maybe he thought about leading him in the direction of wanting to become a teacher? So that's our first question on our little mini episode here.
So my answer to that is no, there was nothing at ninth grade year as far as leading me to be a teacher. But what I will say was totally different experience than you guys have, because this school, whether you know it or not, and part of the reason the sort of goofy layout is because at one time it was actually a junior high and a high school side by side separate. So when you come in the main office area now, that is where a lot of it is joined together. And then like the science wing was added on and things like that. So in my ninth grade year, I was not the little fish in a big pond. It was the opposite. Big fish in the little pond, not into the high school yet. So you guys have 4 years together. And I would think that'd be a little intimidating, because I know maybe just going in as a 10th grader when there's only 10th, 11th, and 12th, it's a whole new experience, but it's not as many kids. So at that time, no, in ninth grade, I was certain I wanted to get into a career in criminal justice and go to college for criminal justice, which I did do when I graduated with a criminal justice degree from Kutztown University.
So a little bit different. And then later on, Mr. Iobst went into working with students as well too. So the next question we wanted to ask is, in this wacky year that we've had here, maybe it doesn't feel this way, but in a normal year or even in this current scenario, like what is it about teaching? You said you've been working with students of this age for about 30 years now. What is it about this age group, or what is it about teaching that you still like coming back to do every day?
I just enjoy the interactions. There's just way more positive than good. I think I can be real with the kids. I think it's a good relationship to be able to. It's a lot more difficult now, put it that way, to form that sort of relationship with students and get to know them a little bit better because of the Zoom, and people are less likely maybe to participate or interact, or it's harder for you to maybe help or reach out for help, because usually when there's a student in a room, you kind of get the hint. You can sort of pick up on a lot of other cues. You actually just get to know each other better, and I think it makes the whole thing a lot more fun. And I do like having fun in the classroom. I love joking around with the kids. I mean, there's a time to be serious always, but at the same time, there's plenty of time to kind of joke around, have a good time, and make the day light. Find something good out of every day.
And I know currently, and for the long time, you've done history and social studies. So you have a little bit more of an opportunity there to kind of take some of those things that have happened and kind of draw connections and do those things as well too. So you've had that chance to kind of be in that environment for a while there. So our last question, you currently work with ninth graders. You're one of our ninth grade we'll call them specialists for right now. But if you were going to give advice, and I know you give lots of advice because we're in the same room for meetings and all other stuff sometimes, and you're always talking to the students about what they can do better in their ninth grade year. But if you were to give our current ninth graders or our upcoming ninth graders your best piece of advice for coming into the high school or during their ninth grade year, what would you tell them?
I guess I'd kind of address it to both, because whether you're coming in or whether you're here right now, by no means was this a normal ninth grade experience. This was not it. And I imagine you could say that on the eighth grade level too. So it may have been a lot more difficult to kind of feel comfortable, feel at home. Even just half the people that are there now didn't even navigate the school yet. So ninth graders coming back, realize that there's going to be a lot of hiccups in the road. You got to figure it out. Ninth graders coming up, same thing. Main thing I would like to say is just do what you can to get involved in one way, shape, or form or another. You're going to have 4 years here at the high school. Hopefully just 4 years, and you're getting your degree and you're out the door. And make it yours, own it. There's something to do for everybody. Whether it's a club, whether it's a sport, whether it's the drama department, plays, the band. There's so many clubs and activities that you can get involved. Find a tie-in, find a positive support group, decide, make that silly thing, make good choices. Well, just, use your time productively here. And hopefully you find that it was a pretty positive experience.
And you conveniently left out get involved in student government as it's funny. I was just kind of thinking here that our current freshmen are the class of 2024. And then you said you were the class of 84. So you would be the 40-year bridge. So if you're the senior class president of 2024, you have a neat thing in common with Mr. Iobst. You can bond over that kind of stuff. So it's kind of fun to kind of put those two things together there. So we thank Mr. Iobst for joining us here and give him, appreciation of this week for all the stuff that he does for the students here at Emmaus High School. Any other parting words here, Mr. Iobst?
It's never too late to get involved either, just because you didn't now, because I decided to run for class president, I believe, 1 month before the actual election was, having not been involved in student government any year before that. So,
that the story that there sounds like there's probably a bigger story on a different podcast on a different day to kind of hear the real reasons behind that. But we'll let the listeners and the viewers kind of hang on that one for a little bit. And if they see you in the hallway, maybe they can ask you about your class president story and how that came to be. So thanks a lot, Mr. Iobst, for joining us today. And we appreciate you during this Teacher Appreciation Week.
Thank you so much for having me.